Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And this one I got for you is relative to St. Louis and its region. I would say that St. Louis is compromised or encompassed with four specific areas or areas within its region. You got St. Louis City, St. Louis County, crossing west of 270, Highway 270, you have St. Charles County, and I would say south, Highway 4455, you have Jefferson County. So four areas that encompass our region. And historically, you saw a North County migration for blacks that left the city and moved to North County. You had whites that lived in North County, sold their homes to blacks and moved to St. Charles County. You had a large migration over the years of white America that have gone westbound into Clayton, Ladue, Baldwin, Chesterfield. So it has left St. Louis City to be the most underserved and underpopulated out of the four areas in this particular metropolitan region. And in saying that, blacks that started making more money, becoming middle class, started moving to North County. St. Louis City has a lot of dilapidated buildings. Schools have closed. Of course, the tornado hit May 17th of 2025 that increased the devastation and dilapidation in St. Louis City. And St. Louis City gets many times a bad rap about crime, car break-ins, assaults, homicides, etc. So people that have moved west, they have kind of turned their nose up or down towards St. Louis City. People that live westward, St. Charles County, many of them don't even cross 270. People that live in St. Louis County or in the Jefferson County area, they don't come to the city unless it's a Blues hockey game or a St. Louis Cardinals baseball game. After 5 o'clock, unfortunately, St. Louis does not have a thriving downtown. So there has been or have been a number of issues and stereotypes that have been placed on St. Louis City, whether North City or South City. But I got a big one for you. St. Louis County, here again, I tell you that encompasses Clayton, Ladue, Frontenac, Baldwin, Chesterfield, etc. St. Louis County has a budget deficit of almost $80 million. What are all the geniuses, the politicians, the lead political leaders in St. Louis County, what are they doing to where they have fumbled the ball and the bag and are $80 million short in the fiscal year for 2026? St. Louis County, so St. Louis City has a mayor, Mayor Kara Spencer, and basically the equivalent to a mayor in St. Louis County is the county executive, Dr. Sam Page, who's actually an anesthesiologist. And there's been a number of rumblings about Dr. Sam Page, about double dipping in the sense that he gets paid as a full-time employee as the county executive, quasi the mayor, but also he was working or has been working full-time as an anesthesiologist. And the average anesthesiologist pay for an anesthesiologist has been out 10, 20 years would be in the mid 300,000, 350,000, close to $400,000 a year, just as an anesthesiologist. And he gets a full-time salary as a county exec. And there's been issues on conflicts of interest and can he handle both jobs. That's been an issue. Dr. Sam Page last year got indicted for using taxpayer funds for a campaign that he has said he did not do for campaign ads, and he's been having conflicts with department heads, with county council people. There's been several issues that have been going on with Dr. Sam Page, and he's not running for county executive again. Also, they have another thing that's going on with St. Louis County is that they're debating on, right now, St. Louis County's main offices are in downtown Clayton, and then they're talking about possibly moving to St. Anne in the Northwest Plaza district or area out there. So there's been issues with that. In order for them to stay in St. Louis County and Clayton, they've got to do some renovations, millions and millions of dollars of renovations on the building that they're in, and they're even talking about moving. Then they're talking also about a bunch of budget cuts. And of course, they're talking about closing county swimming pools, county resources for kids. There's some issues with, are they going to cut funding at the St. Louis County health clinics, which would be sort of a dichotomy or a certain level of hypocrisy if they cut the healthcare clinics or if they cut healthcare programs in St. Louis County. That seems a little counterintuitive when the St. Louis County executive is actually a physician. Dr. Sam Page is an anesthesiologist. So let's get into all this controversy, and this is a big deal in the St. Louis area on these budget cuts. What's going on with Dr. Sam Page? He's not running for office again. I even wonder, why would he even get into politics, period? He dedicated his life to becoming a physician and to be a specialist in anesthesiologist, and to want to go into politics and do both and have a big position like county exec makes not a lot of sense to me. To me, if he wanted to be in politics, he should have went to law school. So I don't know if this is ego, if this is about power for Sam Page, but now he's got himself in a bit of a pickle where he's even been indicted for using taxpayer money for a particular campaign that he was running for. So let's get into it. St. Louis County Council passes the 2026 budget in a 6-1 vote. Backlash from county executive remains. The St. Louis County Council's approval of a 2026 budget that slashes $48 million from the deficit sparks tension due to health service cuts and its potential impact. Remember, health service cuts, and Dr. Sam Page is a physician. The St. Louis County Council approved a contentious budget for 2026 by voting to slash $48 million from the county's projected deficit in a move that County Executive Sam Page has described as alarming. Following weeks of heated debate, the council passed the final round of budget bills in a 6-1 vote. The majority bloc, claiming fiscal responsibility, worked with the council budget director to reduce the $81 million deficit originally proposed by Dr. Sam Page. A large part of the friction centers on the Department of Public Health. Councilwoman Shalonda Webb, who serves as the council's liaison for the health fund, spearheaded an $11 million reduction in that specific budget. Now remember, we're talking about the Department of Public Health. Here it is. That's a little bit counterintuitive. They're talking about cutting that particular budget, reducing that budget in the public health department while Dr. Sam Page is a physician. The council's adopted plan allocates $80 million to the department for 2026, down from the current year's adopted budget of more than $83 million, and eliminates 83 vacant positions and other cuts on the proposed budget based on spending trends. Webb defended the reductions, insisting that essential care would remain intact despite the administrative cuts. We are not closing health clinics. I want everyone to stop doing that to people. We will focus on those chartered services like vaccinations, like communicable diseases, Webb said. However, health officials described a chaotic budget process and cited a breakdown in communication leading to the vote. Dr. Kanika Cunningham, the county's health director, expressed fear that the reduction in funding would hinder the department. She said, I really hope that a lot of the services we provide are not cut just because we do a lot to address overdoses and its impact to maintain access to health care and maintain access to behavioral health care as well. Webb disputed the claims of poor communication, stating that the council made efforts to inform department heads once their recommendations were finalized. As soon as we had them complete, we reached out to them. All of those departments that responded to us were able to give them a heads up and are willing to go more in depth with any of them when they're available. Councilwoman Lisa Clancy was the sole dissenting vote against the budget package. She said, I'm concerned about what's in these bills, particularly when it comes to public health and how this will impact our ability to care for all of our neighbors. County Executive Page, who has previously threatened to veto the budget, declined to answer specific questions regarding the bills, noting he had not yet reviewed the text. However, he maintained his opposition to the cuts. As described, the cuts are alarming, but we will have to wait till we read them and understand them to have a reaction to them. Less money obviously will mean less services available, County Executive Dr. Sam Page said. The council majority remained steadfast in its assertion that the reductions were administrative and would not affect the public. He said the residents, as it pertains to services, won't feel the cuts, while the St. Louis County Charter grants the council the authority to adopt the budget. The possibility of a veto from the county executive remains, despite the council saying the charter does not allow the county executive to veto the budget. However, with a 6-1 majority, the council appears to hold the necessary votes to override any potential veto from Dr. Sam Page. So just when you think St. Louis City has issues, guess what? St. Louis County has many issues very similar to any other place. This story is very important because I say to people all the time, we just saw this President Trump's State of the Union yesterday, on Tuesday, and people pay attention to their federal and their national politics and don't pay attention to your local politics. You need to pay attention and make sure that your local politicians are held accountable for how they legislate on your behalf and your freedom. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth.